is actually
It's the most compliant element.
And when you do this introduction, should we just stay down there for
I
all
will
of
start
them?
and then Kate is going to name them.
Ready,
and
Ms.
then
Cabral.
And then we'll go down.
Well,
I have said I can do anything you can to get money for kids.
Well, that might be pushing it.
And it's like,
That's okay.
One.
but anyway, Jane's doing a great job there.
We can tell by the excitement in the room that something must be coming up, and it may not be the Great Minnesota Get-Together, the Minnesota State Fair. I think it's going to be the Great St. Paul Schools Get-Together, the opening of schools with seeing everyone in their new positions and welcoming you all. So thank you for joining us for this regular monthly Board of Education meeting for St. Paul Public Schools. Today is Tuesday, the 16th, and this is our regularly scheduled meeting. We have a full agenda, but we are looking forward to the portion of our agenda where we do recognitions and personal greetings to so many of you who are seated in our audience tonight. So we hope that you'll persist in hearing the business matters before us. We will begin by reviewing the agenda and approving that, and then we will go on with the regular matters of the board, but we do know that we do have a recognition time that will be held at 6:30, and then we will move to our public comment time, which is also an order of the day item at 7. Board members, let us begin, as I've called the meeting to order, with our roll call. Ms. Polsfuss, please.
Ms. Kongtao?
Yes.
Ms. O'Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Broderick?
here,
Ms. Street Stewart?
Here.
Ms. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Risberg?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Thank you very much. All of our board members are here, so we have a quorum to meet. Before you is the agenda. We have both our main agenda and the consent agenda. The way they are printed in the agenda tonight, we could look at item A, which is the consent agenda. I am aware that there are several items that have been requested for separate consideration. I will identify those, and then if board members have other items, please inform us at this time. We have C1, C3, D1, E6, and F2. And as we get closer to that time, I'll make sure that we have the page numbers, but that's it? Oh, bingo. Okay. Any other items to be requested? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as revised?
Second.
It's been moved and second. We will vote.
Ms. Kongtao?
Yes.
Ms. O'Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Broderick?
yes,
Ms. Street Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Risberg?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Thank you very much. That motion has been approved. We now have our consent agenda set before us. The main agenda is next. Is there a motion to approve the
So
main
moved.
agenda? Second. It's been moved and second. We will now vote.
Ms. Kongtao?
Yes.
Ms. O'Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Broderick?
Yes.
Ms. Street Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Risberg?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Thank you very much. All have approved the main agenda, and so we will follow that in our order this evening. First item on our agenda then will be the approval of minutes of previous meetings. We had a special closed board meeting of July 19th, as well as a regular board meeting set on July 19th. A motion to approve.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on that motion? We will vote.
Ms. Kongtao?
Yes.
Ms. O'Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Broderick?
Yes.
Ms. Street Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Risberg?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Thank you very much. A record of both of those meetings will now be part of our permanent record of the board. The next item on the agenda will be the committee of the board meeting of July 19th. That was a very busy evening for us with the special board meeting and then the regular board meeting as well as a committee of the board meeting. Director O'Connell, would you please present for us the report of that committee of the board meeting?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the Chair has mentioned, we had a committee of the board meeting on July 19th, and the first item on the agenda was a legislative update. It's hard to remember at this moment in time that the state was in shutdown at that particular moment. But the SPPS Legislative Liaison, Mary Gilbert, provided a recap of the completed legislative session, noting a special session agreement had been reached to move the bills forward. She indicated there was an agreement for no amendments or any other bills being added to the agenda, with the bills going straight to the floor for their third reading. She reviewed the major provisions of the bills as known. This was during the period of time when we didn't really know what was in the bills. And provided her insight on what might be expected in the final bill, indicating a complete report would be provided to the board and administration as soon as all details were known. The second subject was our revision to Policy 903.00, Dangerous Weapons Policy, which was reviewed with the following motion: that the board approve the revised language provided, and that the revised policy containing the new language be brought to the August Board of Education meeting for its first reading. So I believe it is on the agenda tonight. I'm not sure if we
It is
actually
correct.
need to move this or if we actually did this at
It will
our
certainly be answered
meeting.
by our action this evening. We do want to recognize that we had requested and then approved that it be brought to tonight's meeting. You could, Director Carroll.
Because we will not actually vote later on in the agenda, it's simply brought forward and read. I would like to request a vote so that we may identify support and opposition to this policy.
Okay, so the committee of the board has recommended, and so the motion is before you now. Is there additional discussion on this motion? Director Carroll.
I am speaking against the amendment to the policy that exempts from a dangerous weapons status the JROTC mock rifles. I'm speaking in opposition to it and will vote accordingly.
Okay, thank you. Director O'Connell and then Director Hardy.
I would like to speak in support of this policy change. I believe our young men and women who are involved in JROTC deserve as full an experience as they can, as we would expect with any other opportunity in our schools.
Okay, Director Hardy.
Just a point of order, Madam Chair. Why is this coming as a vote?
Because it comes from the committee of the board, and that's how items come to our agenda
Recommended
tonight.
to the board. The board would normally be voting.
Additional discussion on the motion, which is coming from the committee of the board. If not, we will vote now.
Ms. Kongtao?
Yes.
Ms. O'Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Broderick?
Yes.
Ms. Street Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Carroll?
No.
Mr. Risberg?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Thank you very much. That vote is 6 in favor, 1 opposed, and so it will pass. Okay?
The last item on the committee of the board meeting, July 19th, was a work session to ensure that all conflict of interest forms were collected from board members, and the meeting was adjourned.
Thank you very much. Board members, is there a motion to approve then the minutes of the committee of the board from July 19th?
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded by several people. We will vote now.
Get ready to move it.
Ms. Gongtao?
Yes.
Ms. O'Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Broderick?
Yes.
Ms. Street Stewart?
Yes,
Ms. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Risberg?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
thank you very much. We will continue on with our agenda, and at this time, we will be able to advance toward the superintendent's report. So Superintendent Silva, if you would begin your report, and then we'll just keep an eye on the clock for 6:30.
Madam Chairs, members of the board, and this is a wonderful time. As you see, there's a lot of energy in the room, and the energy comes from many of our leaders that they are here today to introduce themselves and for you to at least visualize how they look like when you come and visit the buildings. You will have a chance to know. But today, my report, it's going to be quite a little bit different than any other times. We're going to start with an overview of how, as administration and as a district, are prepared to receive our students and families in less than 3 weeks. And second, as always, we are going to do the human resource transaction. This is our last regular meeting before the opening week, as you probably are, especially you, the audience, very excited about September 6th. Tonight, I wanted to present our traditional readiness report that we provide in every summer of the work that we have been doing during the summer, as well as the work that has been done in the year to prepare for the opening week of the year 2011, in this case, 11-12. As we count down from the start of the school year, I wanted to reiterate my commitment and the commitment from my staff and the work that has been happening this summer and before this summer to get ready for many new adventures in new programs and a lot of movement in staff and teachers. With that, I wanted to also take the opportunity to thank the principals and the staff that participated in summer school, because I failed to recognize them last month, and it's been in my mind. And as much as some of you probably were as a summer school administrator, you forgot about it because you have about a week and a half off that you could relax before you came to do your other job. It's a great opportunity for our students, and we are so proud of St. Paul that we can capture up to 15,000 students every summer, that we can give them the opportunity to enrich their learning in a different environment and as well in a different way. So for that, all the families and the students, we're looking forward to start planning our summer school 2012. With this, I am going to ask our chief of staff to show you a short PowerPoint presentation that kind of summarizes what we have been doing and how we are preparing to start the school year. And then I'm going to bring it back to some of the points she's going to bring in the PowerPoint to remind the board and the staff and the people who are here in the audience and all those people who are watching us from home that this school year for us, especially for the administration and many teachers, have already started. So, a lot of people stop me in the street and says, "Oh, are you getting ready for school?" And I'm like, "We already are in school." "Well, our kids are not coming." Well, we start very early in August, working and getting ready for the September 6th. With that, Ms. Kelly, they're all yours.
Welcome, Ms. Kelly.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Silva. As the superintendent said, our work really doesn't stop, but at this point during the summer, we are in intense preparation mode. And so very briefly, I'd like to walk you through not everything that we're doing, because that would take quite a bit of time, but some of the high points and connectedness around our work and the strategic plan. So goal number one, as you know, is academic achievement, and so we are going to start first with academic readiness. And in terms of academic readiness, we are spending the next several weeks focusing on professional development, both for our principals and our teachers. As always, our big kickoff for professional development for all of our senior staff and administrators is the Administrators Academy. That is this week on Thursday. And the focus of that superintendent's message will be around three big areas: expectations and strategic direction. This is really where we get our marching orders for the year, if you will, and where we are reinforced and reinvigorated around implementation now of the Strong Schools, Strong Communities plan. Racial equity will be a focus this year. As you know, we started with cultural proficiency training a couple years ago now, but really made the switch to Pacific Education Group and began to change our language to racial equity. And we have already begun that work. Our principals and senior leaders have participated in intense, I would say, is a good word to describe it, 2 days of racial equity training within this past week. And some of that began to shift focus to culturally proficient teaching, as well as how we engage with our parents and community. So really taking this to a deeper level. And then, of course, our district doesn't function without data. And so we'll talk about that more in subsequent slides, but this will also be a chance for us to once again re-examine our data, look at where we are, and link that to where we want to go. Our new teacher orientation is scheduled for August 26th. We know that this is always a great and exciting event. It will be at John A. Johnson Elementary School this year. And this year, the training, which is a full day, is being co-sponsored both by the Center for Professional Development and also our PAR committee, Peer Assistance and Review. So again, trying to keep that alignment and bring those together. We are scheduling 59, I have to look to Chris Emerson, our master schedule here for opening week, but 59 staff workshops for opening week. That's for teachers and other district staff, everything from everyday math to readers and writers workshop, keeping with our essentials, everything being consistent. And so again, that's a very busy week for us and really is the signal when everyone's back and preparing for that next week opening day. Not only are we continuing racial equity at the district level, as I've just talked about, but we are really excited to be able to say that we are taking racial equity work into the schools, where perhaps it matters, if not equally, the most. And so we're starting with our beacon schools, and those schools were selected to accelerate their racial equity work. Those schools are Como Park Elementary, Hazel Park Preparatory, Farnsworth Elementary, Barack and Michelle Obama Preparatory, and Crossroads. And so they will complete a series of equity team seminars during 2011-12 school year and take part in site-based coaching. And we'll provide you with more information on that, but suffice to say that this will be our shift toward taking this throughout the district. And then again, our academic readiness focus on the Common Core. And we just received a press release from the Council of Great City Schools highlighting the fact that St. Paul Public Schools is one of just a handful across the country that will be leaders in this Common Core implementation work. We got that, I think, last night. So we're pleased about that in terms also of our preparation. Next slide. Continuing with our academic readiness, you'll see here that there's organizational realignment to support teaching and learning. Both a restructuring of the center, which we've talked to you about. We have targeted support for schools in AYP stages 3.1 and above. So really beginning to hone in much earlier about what those strategies and supports will be. And then something that we've talked about in the past is reducing silos. And so one of the ways that we really made an attempt this summer to reduce silos is to have a retreat with the Division of Academics, the Division of Schools, and Division of Accountability, bringing those staffs together to talk about what the work looks like in an aligned way, opening the doors of communication wider, not that they weren't already open, so that the staffs also are communicating with each other. And really this whole slide is about the superintendent's push to make sure that wherever we are in the organization, we are aligned around one thing, and that is student achievement. No divisions, no territorial spats, none of that, but really everybody working in concert to do the best we can for children. So, next slide. And then finally, on academic readiness, it's not just about maintaining the old, but it is about creating some new and exciting things as well that serve children and give them more opportunities. And so we are excited to launch Journey Secondary School, which will be for students identified with special education needs under the leadership of Principal Hamilton Bell. And we're excited about that new concept and what it will look like, and we are doing the final preparation for that program to open. As you know, through our many discussions with the strategic plan, we'll have a Mandarin Chinese immersion program beginning at Benjamin E. Mays. We've expanded our Discovery Club offerings to 2 new schools, Adams and L'Etoile du Nord. And again, we are bringing leadership and learning, our work with the Leadership and Learning Center to scale. That is, again, talking about consistent application of what we know works. Goal number 2, as you know, is alignment. And this is really about systemic accountability and also data readiness. So I could say that this is unreadiness in the fact that because of the state shutdown, our MCA reading and math test results are going to be delayed. Right now we're looking at September 30th for proficiency scores, and then sometime late September or October for AYP results. Obviously that creates some challenges for us. As you know, the AYP results trigger some movement as directed by federal law for students. We're hoping that that is minimal because it is so late in the year and that people will have already connected with their schools, but we are preparing for that and making the necessary adjustments. However, not wanting to wait, Michelle Walker and her team, our Chief Accountability Officer, are going to continue with mining the data, making sure that our principals and staff, key staff, have an opportunity late in August, the 24th, 25th, and 30th, to go over what data we have, talk about how that data can best be used, and these, I believe they were called Jubilees in the past, have actually proved to be very useful and popular with our leadership, as everyone is really looking about how we can better apply data to move us where we want to be. Also on under goal number 2, readiness and alignment, we want to make sure that not only are we ready internally as staff, but we want to make sure that our families and students are ready as well. And so looking at how we can support that. So our placement center has been administering the WIDA Access Placement Test. As you may know, there is going to be a new assessment given. MDE is requiring the administration of something called World-Class Instructional Design and Assessment, the WIDA assessment for English language learners. And so a lot of that begins with front-end work at the placement center to make sure that students who are coming in are actually placed in the appropriate programs and levels. And so they have begun to administer that test now. We also want to make sure that all of our children, despite what circumstance they are coming from, are prepared for school. And so under the leadership of Mr. Matt Moles, our Title I homeless program has been renamed Project Reach to better fit with what they are in fact trying to do, realizing the educational advancement of children who are homeless. And what you will see there is that we are going to provide services to eligible students and families, and those services include on-site assistance with school enrollment and registration process, transportation to enrollment and registration appointments, transportation to the student's school of origin, assistance with school supplies and school uniforms, medical, legal, food, clothing, and housing referrals to community agencies, so really wraparound support services, assistance with early childhood registration and screenings, advocacy for special education services, and academic supports in the evening through tutorial programs at several of the shelters. So really trying to make sure that as our economy continues to putter along, or peter along, or whatever that word is, that we are going to do what we can to help those families and children who need us most. We are really in this area looking to our partners to help us because we realize we can't do this alone. Once again, 3M has stepped up. They are providing more than 17,000 bags of school supplies, and that is just one of our largest donations. There are other smaller organizations across the city, and so on the first day of school, across the city, our students will be met with pencils, pens, notebooks, and all of the things they need to get off to a good year. And then already thinking ahead, we know that students really can't waste any time in terms of preparing for the standardized test, making sure they have as much intervention and support as they need. And so already our Office of Schools and Office of Academics have gotten together to provide grad test prep classes, scheduling for those in advance of the October grad test. Also supporting our families, one of the things that we've looked at internally is sometimes we wait till the last minute to communicate things, and that causes a scheduling problem for our family. So the superintendent has impressed upon us the need to be more timely and aligned in our information sharing. So for instance, our secondary bus schedules have already gone out. Our elementary bus schedules will be going out this week and next week. That gives families time, and we haven't always done that in the past. That gives our families time to walk their kids to the bus stop, show them the route, do all of that kind of preparation work, again, being ready on the first day. Our back-to-school guides were mailed this week. Those should be arriving in homes, again, with more information about how to prepare for school. We've also adjusted our schedules and services to meet the needs of our families, and so over the past few weeks, we have gone out and done enrollment at our community rec centers and other locations where our families are, so that they don't need to come to us. And over the next few weeks, next 2 weeks, we're going to extend the placement center hours on various days from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. so that we work around parents' schedules, whether they work first, second, or third shift, they'll be able to get in there and get their children registered if they haven't done so already. And then central office support to schools on the first day. All of the senior administrators who work centrally have been assigned by Ms. Emerson at the direction of the superintendent to be out in the schools, supporting in whatever way the principals deem necessary, whether it be writing bus numbers on the backs of students' hands, or whatever the case may be, serving breakfast to go. We'll be out there because we really need to see centrally how our work is aligned to what happens in the schools and not forget that, and that's a good way to go. And then finally, goal number 3. I will tell you that the first slides have been created by academicians. You'll notice that they're narrative in nature, very wordy. Our operational slides are no-nonsense, status green. That means the operations division, everything is ready to go, green for go. But what these lines represent, and you can certainly see there that our Chief Business Officer, Mr. Bauman, has listed kind of the work of all of his divisions, and in fact, they are on track, and this is important because a lot of things happen in the Office of Operations. But just to give you a sense of what's behind those numbers, when we look at the nutrition and custodial services line there, and it says that our contracts for food and supplies have been established and our free lunch applications have been mailed out. That free lunch application mail out and having time to get those out to the hands of families is critically important. As you know, it's tied to revenue. But what that means on the back end as we start school is, and we look at our numbers last year we served 3.3 million breakfasts in the district, and 4.6 million lunches were served. That's a huge number, and it means a lot to many children who are on free and reduced price lunch, as well as others who count on those nutritious, healthy, balanced meals in our school district. And so that's a tremendous number. When we look at the information technology line and it says all systems are running, what that also means, though, is that greater focus has been on technology as a tool, and Mr. Bauman has really begun to shift the district thinking around technology as a tool to help efficiency and also to help student learning. And so one of the things, for instance, this year that we've not done in the past, our principals can actually have an electronic link to go on and chart school readiness so that there's that constant communication, and things that need to be fixed that may not be on track are automatically sent in and can be responded to very quickly. And then HR. Obviously, a big part of this engine. All our principals have been hired. We have, I think, only one AP opening left, perhaps. And when we look at this not from a deficit model, but from a strengths model, as the superintendent is encouraging us to do, there are about 1,600 classroom teachers, and we're down to only about 30 or so that need to be filled, and we are on track to get that done so that we will be, every classroom will have someone leading it on September 6th when we start. And then on the next page, just our last page of operational readiness. Another big area, transportation. We transported, or we anticipate transporting 37,428 students this year. 34,700 of those are by bus, which includes 900 4-year-olds will be on buses this year. Scary. Another 2,300 or so are transported by Metro Transit in partnership with us. And we have 61 non-public or parent transport, and we employ or use about 300 adult crossing guards to make sure that our walkers are also safely transported back and forth. We anticipate having about 342 bus routes this year, making 931 trips and 2.7 trips per bus. And that's again with our new tiered system that's worked to improve our budget situation. That translates to, and I had to look at this again to make sure I was reading it right, 6,448,073 miles worth of bus travel we can anticipate this year. And then under facilities, it's always great to see green in the area of facilities because that means our schools will be welcoming and ready despite numerous construction projects that have gone on this summer. There have been 151 school construction projects over the course of this summer in preparation for the new school year, and another 64 non-school construction projects, all operating simultaneously. And so it is, in fact, a great feat to have this as status green with just the final wrap-up being going on in a few sites. And so with that, that concludes our readiness report and questions for the superintendent. Thank you.
Board members, this would be an opportunity if you have any questions or comments on the presentation. Director Kong-Tao.
Well, congratulations on that feat, first and foremost. And I like to see green signs, so that's always a good piece. Just a quick question. I know that in the past, I was just thinking of the 3M. I know that in the past, board member has also had the opportunities to participate. So I just want to make sure, just to let administration know that if there's opportunity for board's participation, please let us know, and we'll be more than happy to sign up as we become available.
We'll provide the
Yes,
information
Superintendent.
to Marilyn.
Okay. Other comments? Director Carroll.
This is very exciting and a little scary, but wonderfully exciting. Thank you so much for providing all this detail. Well, first of all, doing all the work, right? Then providing all the detail, not only to the board, but to the public. I really appreciate that. Congratulations, everybody. This is going to be a great year.
Any suggestions for what parents need to be doing in these last weeks as you make the transition? As you know, you're supposed to be winding the clock back a little bit every night so that they get a little more sleep. But from the superintendent, what would you like to advise our families?
I'm going to tell you a story. I went to a store. I'm not going to name the store because I'm not advertising here. And I saw a parent with 3 kids with a little list, that they get from. So the parent was trying to tell the children that it was too expensive to buy this and this and this. So then, I can't get my nose out of that. So then I asked her, this was in St. Paul, are you going to St. Paul Public Schools? And she's like, yeah, our kids are going there. So I said, well, don't worry about all the supplies. I mean, we're going to be providing this and this and this. And she said, you mean I can save like $60? And I said, yes. So and then I'm telling you that story because really we don't always tell our partners and our companies like 3M, thank you for all the work they do, and thank you for all what they give to our community. I was last year in one of the schools in which we give the bags. I tell you, the faces of those kids, they would open it up and look inside, and they're like, is this Christmas? And then they go, do I have to give it back to anybody? No, this is yours to put in your book bag and take home. So the reality is we are trying to seek for anything we can get to provide our families in this very tough times with an opportunity to save some dollars and still have the opportunity for their children to have what they need. This, as you know, we have some schools with uniform, and we have uniforms in the schools that we can donate to the families. And if you're struggling right now, parent, figuring out that you have to go and buy a couple of shirts, and please contact your school. The staff is there. Most of the schools have supplies to give it to you and your child. And if they don't, they will figure it out. I'll tell you that, because they will call around and figure out the way that your child shows up in school with a beautiful uniform and they feel proud of being in St. Paul Public Schools. Another thing I would recommend to the parents is it is really tough for the kids to get up really early in the morning. And when the sun goes down at about 9 o'clock, it's almost, I would say, take the next 15 days and start slowing down the time to go to bed. Because what happened the first week of school, they come very excited, but by about 12 or 1, they're dead. Not physically dead, but they're so tired. And then it creates a lot of issues. And also, it doesn't help them to have this good experience of the first week at school. And for many kids, it's the first time they've been at school, or the first time they've been at that school, or the first time they've been in St. Paul Public Schools. So we want those first impressions to be absolutely wonderful for you as parents, as well as for the students. In addition, you will see that our high schools are going to look a lot more uniform, because we had new furniture being installed in the offices that are much welcoming, and they provide the opportunity for the staff to accommodate their needs. You know, some of the furniture was from 1975, and they didn't exist, the computers at that time. So you could see staff with pillows trying to write in tables that were too high. So right now, one of the efforts we did this summer was to unify the high schools on how they look and how they have that welcoming, respectful environment for the families and also for our staff, that it's living in that environment for at least 8 hours a day, every day. So we are very proud of that. And anything else is, I want to make sure that you as a parent get your information about the bus. And I tell you, I've been in the district almost 25 years, and I hope I get my clock as the next week. I think it's that the big deal getting the clock, and I hope it works enough until I retire. So the students, the parents always have had a hard time getting the information on the bus literally 2-3 days before the school starts. And so I've been really pushing transportation to give us that data much earlier. And I tell you, this is a record on sending the data so early. Yes, it is a risk too, because it will be many changes. But at least you know where your stop will be, and it may be 2 minutes behind, or 2 minutes, or 5 minutes behind the first day until we get to the routes. But it will provide the opportunity for you as a parent to have a couple days that you can walk your child or figure out where it is that they have that safety net. And we also have we have 5 elementary schools that they have a half a mile, which for some of those parents may still be thinking they have to send the student to another school. And remember, half a mile is only a few blocks, and what we want is to continue with our plan of a strong school, strong community, and create a wonderful school that you and your community want and must send your child, because that is the right place to be educated. And with that, I'm going to tell you that I have pushed the staff to have these high expectations that all students must and should achieve. And the expectations are there. The expectations for you parents and students must be there. This is about working together in collaboration with the families, in collaboration with our staff and the community. There's no school district that is perfect in this nation. And if they would be, we would have no achievement gap across the nation. And then it's a school, that district, St. Paul, that is opening our hearts, our minds to educate and take the most precious thing you send us every day, which is your child. And we take this very seriously. And not only we prepare, we have the pride. And today, as part of my presentation, you will see that we have new leaders, that they're going to be coming to your school, or they will be the principal or the assistant principal or the administrative intern in the school that will be working with you and your family. And we're very proud because many of this new staff, they're really not new to us. Some of them have been in the district. They're moving from one school to the other. They're choosing different choices. And we have the opportunity as a St. Paul, having so many schools, to learn and exchange and change and work in different environments that us as professionals grow. And part of today's presentation, I'm looking at the 6:30, is our recognition to the new staff that is going to be leading, and I said the word leading, the work of this next school year. Without them, our school district will not function. And as I always have said, everything else can stop, but what goes on in the schools is the most important part of our mission. And everything and anything as a superintendent I do is always thinking about students and schools, because the bottom line is there. Students are our first priority. With that, I'm going to ask our Chief Accountability Office, Director Wilcox Harris, to read the names of all these new leaders, and I'll ask the board to come in front there to recognize and shake hands and maybe hugs. The kisses will keep it away. And for the new people to also know that we will be calling your name. And I'm going to give the microphone to my boss, which is the board chair.
I do understand that Director Wilcox Harris will do the introductions, naming people, and then we'll go down. Okay, so.
We will be doing it now, and then she will be naming it right
Yeah, I
now.
think she's going to name.
Okay, do you want us to come down now?
Yes.
But we won't know.
And we'll go to the left?
Yeah, that's better. I was going to say, I can't handle it.
Madam Chair, Directors of the Board, Superintendent Silva, esteemed colleagues, please join me in congratulating the following individuals. I would ask that the group please refrain from applauding until the very end, and as your name is called, please come forward. Heidi Brunel, Principal, Adams Spanish Immersion. Nancy Vaverka, Assistant Principal, Adams Spanish Immersion. It's so quiet, I know, but this will be very good. Brooke McGill, American Indian Magnet and World Cultures, Administrative Intern. Mary Wyant, Interim Principal, American Indian Magnet and World Cultures. Howard Wilson, Principal at Battle Creek Elementary. Patrick Bryan, Principal, Capitol Hill Magnet. Steve Hoffman, CIPD Academic Innovation and Technology Assistant Director. Michelle Bierman, CIPD Curriculum Instruction and Professional Development Assistant Director. Christine Osorio, CIPD Curriculum Instruction and Professional Development Executive Director. Julie Schultz-Brown, Communications, Marketing and Development Director. Scott Massini, Como Park Elementary, Administrative Intern.
Thank you.
Melissa Rivera, Crossroads Montessori and Science Assistant Principal. Ivor Nelson, Department of Information Technology Director. Marcia Beisch, Division of Schools Academic Support, Principal on Special Assignment. Steve Anowski, Division of Schools Academic Support Director. Willie Jett, Division of Schools High Schools Assistant Superintendent. Billy Chan, Eastern Heights Elementary Principal.
Names first.
F.A. Agbamu, ELL Director. Patty Murphy, Evening High School Principal. Jim Elander, Four Seasons A+ Elementary Principal. Craig Anderson, Hancock Hamlin Elementary Principal. Kirk Morris, Highland Park Junior High Assistant Principal. Eleanor Clemens, Highwood Hills Elementary Principal. Sharice Jones, Jackson Preparatory Magnet Administrative Intern. Timothy Hoffman, Johnson Senior High Assistant Principal. Austin Osai, Johnson Senior High Principal. Hamilton Bell, Journey Secondary School Principal. Beth Banke, Linwood Monroe Arts Plus Principal. Concha Fernandez Del Rey, Mississippi Elementary Administrative Intern. Kate Flynn, Mississippi Elementary Principal.
Assistant Principal at Johnson. Working together.
Isis Buchanan, Murray Junior High Assistant Principal. Lena Christensen, Museum Magnet and Benjamin E. Mays Assistant Principal. Chris Peterson, Open World Learning Community School Principal. Angelica Van Ypren, Paul and Sheila Wellstone Elementary Principal. John Osorio, Paul and Sheila Wellstone Elementary Assistant Principal. Karen Duke, Randolph Heights Elementary Principal. Liz Keenan, Special Education and Support Services Executive Director. Omar Adams, St. Paul Music Academy Administrative Intern. Mary Yackley, Student Wellness Supervisor.
Yes, their favorite teacher ever.
Jane Rapella, The Heights Community School Principal.
Oh, I want to get out and see you. I want to see the school. Wonderful. Oh, wonderful. I just visited. We're on a team together, yeah. We're on this partnership team.
Oh, got it, yep.
Hi. Yeah, we met already. That's right.
So I got that Kellogg thing going.
Yeah.
I am so excited.
Yeah, I want to get out and see you.
Please do. Anytime.
I've only got about 3 months left, so I came on sunshine, guys. First, brother. Hi, I tell everybody I want to get out and see you. I want to do it first. Just give you a chance to settle in.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm John. Hi, John. Nice to meet you. Get it out there if I can. Anytime. Great. Thanks, guys. All right, take care.
Hi, Karen Duke.
Hi, Karen.
Principal at Randolph Heights.
Hi. Very nice to meet you. You too. I feel like we've met before, but
Well, we
maybe
did
not.
do this in spring.
Oh, we did. Okay.
Or you met me at Jackson, I don't know. But we did this line thing before, too.
Okay.
I don't know. We'll see you around, I hope.
See, hopefully I can visit. So. So I heard executive director special ed.
Special education, yes, yes, yes.
And your name again?
Elizabeth Keenan.
Okay.
Thank you. That's great.
Hi.
Okay, I understand.
I'm supposed to cover about 3 months.
Right. Oh, okay. Well, good luck in your.
Yeah, I just appointed for the reason.
Oh, yeah.
Finish it up. Anyway,
Please,
hi.
I'm Mary Yackley. I'm hired to replace Ann Hoxie in student health and wellness.
please join us all in a round of applause on behalf of all of our honorees.
With that, I wanted to thank everybody that came today to have the hug of the year. I hope it's not the only hug or shake hands you have, because the board members as well as me, we are in schools a lot, and we are there to support you, not to check if you're there. And we are there because we like to see our students, our teachers, and our staff in action, and that helps us to make better decisions. With that, I know some of you, not some of you, all of you are extremely busy trying to get ready for the 6th, actually a week before, because your staff gets here. So you are excused to leave. If you don't want to leave, that is fine, because it may be for your hours that you need to do for your licensure. So I'm willing to sign the paper for anybody if you stay the whole time. For that, go home, enjoy this rest of the summer, because a lot of work is coming down to you. Thank you for choosing St. Paul Public Schools.
You have your chance.
Board members, I think we can do also another round of applause for all of our Superintendent, are there other items on your report tonight before we get into the actual business of approving reports?
Well, Madam Chair, and the only piece that I wanted to add is the fact that we have been doing the cultural proficiency training, and our chief of staff was able to mention the different levels, and then how we are continuing with the work in that area. We also have, we're starting to look at how we can even prepare our principals and leaders deeper. We are focusing, and as you know, we have the grant from Travelers as well as the federal grant. We're going to focus on different ways of prepare our staff for the current assignment as well as for the future. Because what I want is, one day when I retire, which should be not long, not really, but I'm dreaming, that we can look back and we have many, many future leaders that we can pick from. And it's going to be an opportunity for many of us to continue growing. So and with that, and the direction that academics as well as the chief of schools is going, in focusing on leadership. As you know, there's a little bit of transition with Mr. Bryan going to Capitol Hill, and he really saw that opening and saw himself as a perfect fit. And as he said to me, his soul is with the kids, and he did a great job in the leadership. And now we have Steve Unowski, who's going to be taking and leading that initiative for this coming school year. With that, I am not laughing, I am smiling, because where you see today, it's a work of many, many people, from recruiting, from preparing, from providing the opportunity for people to interview, to get them to the stage of being assistant principal, principal, or administrative intern. And this is the beginning of a larger group of future leaders that we will have in St. Paul. And with that, my presentation is ending.
Thank you very much, Superintendent, for the information and for giving us this opportunity to recognize this year's leadership team. We know that there are many more, in fact, out there in St. Paul schools, and there will be every day. As you have presented the information to us, do you want us, as we take action on the HR information, do you want to have special attention to these?
Well, should we do the HR at this point, or wait until you do the different items?
Well, HR is part of your report. We can
Okay,
just do
so
it now.
then we will do, as we do the formal presentation of the HR transaction in this month. It's in page 21 in your book, and it's in your places, as well as a motion to adopt another 3 people for personnel position recommendations, which is Beth Benke, Principal Linwood Monroe Arts Plus, Patrick Bryan, as I said before, Principal Capitol Hill Magnet, and Dr. Marcia Beige, I don't know if I'm killing her last name, probably, as a Principal and Special Assignment to work in the leadership training for our staff.
So, board members, what you have before you are all the transactions from Human Resources, as well as the 3 principal placements.
And I will move approval of all the human resource transactions and the 3 new principal placements.
Thank you,
Second.
Director Carroll, and Director Kong Tao has seconded. Is there discussion on this motion? If not, let's vote.
Ms. Kong Tao?
Yes.
Ms. O'Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Broderick?
Yes.
Ms. Street Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Risberg?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Those have all been approved. We appreciate the information, Superintendent, that you have given to us this evening. Board members, we would have a few minutes as we look at our agenda items. We could go to Roman numeral 9, which is the consent agenda, those items that remained as a whole group. So is there a motion to approve?
Of the
Second.
items that have not been pulled.
Okay,
No, I
it's
second
been moved and seconded. Did you get that? We'll vote.
Ms. Kong Tao?
Yes.
Ms. O'Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Broderick?
Yes.
Ms. Street Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Risberg?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Those items on the consent agenda have now been approved. We could go then one at a time with those items that have been requested to be pulled. If you turn to page 30 in your board book, you will have the first item, C1, which falls under contracts. And this is the item regarding our contract with Leadership and Learning Center, or LLC. Director Hardy, you had asked that it be pulled for separate consideration. Do you have questions now?
Yep, thank you, Madam Chair. I asked for that to be pulled for special consideration because I thought since we had a great public introduction of LLC's work, it'd be a nice time just to have an overview of their contributions and more specifically just to talk with the public about the focus for LLC as we approve this proposal tonight in helping with goal number 1, and especially in light of the work we still need to do based on recent test scores that have been revealed to us from the Minnesota Department of Education.
Okay, well, Superintendent, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Hardy, thank you for taking into consideration in this item because, as you know, sometimes the public doesn't know the whole piece, and this is a very complex work we've been doing. We will be entering our 3rd year of the work with the learning, with LLC, Leading Learning Center, and Dr. Reeves, and I'm going to ask Dr. Wilcox to give us more information. I'm not sure if it's you or if it's Michelle, that give you more information on the kind of work and how we are spending the dollars that they are being put in this agenda.
Especially in the application into our goals.
Yes.
Madam Chair, Directors of the Board, Superintendent Silva, Director Hardy, our subject matter expert around the leadership and learning work this year is Mr. John Andrastik. He's joined us at the podium. But just to remind everyone again that so much of the work we're guided in today by LLC was launched through our implementation audit, which was done over 2 years ago, to which the findings revealed that we had many, many initiatives and lacked deep implementation of our initiatives. And so we've really concentrated on expanding the internal capacity This kind of a contract shouldn't come before the board again at this size. We're getting smaller and smaller and smaller because we need to build the internal capacity through our trainings and certifications so that our teachers have the practices they need. Remember, our theme from LLC was practices, not products. Don't go after the next product or tool. Look at the practices that our wonderful teachers are using every day in the classroom. And with that, I'll let Mr. Andrastik touch on some of the things that are planned for this contract this year.
Mr. Andrasik.
Thank you. Madam Chair, Directors of the Board, Superintendent Silva. A couple of the highlights going into this third year with our partnership with LLC. One aspect of the work that's in the Strong Schools, Strong Communities design is the data teams process for PLC, supporting professional learning communities as best as possible in using data, student data, not only the large formative assessments that are given, as in the MAP assessments, but those individual assessments, formative assessments that are done in between time by teachers in their content areas. And the data teams process helps truly identify very specific information and focus to assist teachers in helping students to become more proficient. And last year, in October, 18 St. Paul Public School staff were certified in the data teams process, and we targeted initially the schools that had not met AYP that were at the 3.1 and above levels. In addition to that, however, there was excitement around the work. Basically, when PLCs meet, they'll do formative assessments. The teachers will create wonderful formative assessments that are standards-based and then don't know what to do with that information and how that informs their instruction. So what the data teams process does is that it identifies, it helps teachers identify what the issues are with students who are either proficient, close to, or far from proficiency, and then identify research-based strategies to then implement in the classroom for each of those cohorts of students at whatever level they present. So that process then became very, the secondary sites, even those that were not 3.1, not meeting AYP, became very excited in learning about that process. So here we are going into this year, identifying school need in not only at the elementary sites, but the secondary sites, and where in each site to target that assistance. That being said, one of the major cost components to our current proposal with the partnership is continuing the work in math in the 5 Easy Steps for a Balanced Math program. The focus this year is on the step 2, which is the problem-solving process. And one of the reasons why that component is more of an expense is because the representative from Leadership and Learning Center, this case, someone named Rachel Syria, goes into the classroom of the teacher, models without prior notice of what the class looks like, walks in and teaches that class, modeling that process. And what we know of professional development is what really sticks in changing teacher practice is when someone comes in, especially an outside consultant, coming into our territory and teach our students who we see every day. And over, that has been the process at no matter what site Rachel is at. So that is really the bulk of why that is a costly piece, because they're spending a whole day at a site to walk through that process, talk with the teachers at each site during their either their PLC time if they have it during the day or after school, talking to the leadership team. And that has been a great engagement piece for the teachers learning that process. The other piece is that we're already seeing capacity building, which is why the contract is considerably less in terms of overall cost, is because we have learned how to, we've gotten great traction with the engaging classroom assessments, the formative assessments that are standards-based. Part of that, like I mentioned earlier, formative piece in between the MAP tests. We have our LLC coaches who I met with personally at least once a month, if not more frequently, making on-site visits to ensure that they are working with their staff in not only creating those assessments, but also then walking through that process of now what do we do once we know what the results of those assessments are. So great capacity is being built there. Also in the right to learn strategies, we have identified not only how they connect in the content areas, but also how they support GNAG, which is sound instructional practice. And it's part of the managed instruction piece that we're looking for at the high schools. And that is to say, when you walk into Harding or Central, you should be able to see strategies that teachers have learned through the right to learn process embedded in their classroom. And then finally, the exciting piece is our involvement with the Common Core state standards being recognized not only through, nationally right now. The Leadership and Learning Center is hosting, we are hosting them to share their work not only with our staff over a 2-day period in December, but it will also be open to other districts in the St. Paul, Minneapolis area, showcasing our work, St. Paul, celebrating our work, and really showing or providing a model of how an urban center, an urban district, can address the issues of student achievement and eliminating the achievement gap.
Thank you very much for that information. Director Hardy?
Quick follow. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for that information, Ms. Androsik and Ms. Wilcox-Harris. Quick question. Now, you focus on math. Given the statewide and local results on the science MCA2s, I know we have not held to that as a district in the same way, but still, what kind of focus on science instruction can be included with LLC?
Mr. Androsky.
Director Hardy, Madam Chair, and directors of the board, Superintendent Silva, one of the pieces that we're finding in what students are proficient in terms of the standards. Basically, when you look at standard requirements or what is being tested in an MCA, those standards sometimes are written at a very basic level in terms of understanding the content. What happens on a test when a student finds himself taking the test is they are working through, navigating through sometimes higher level literacy challenges that are not necessarily identified in the standard. So that presents a gap. I may know how to add or subtract, but when I try to break apart a problem, within that problem there are literacy pieces that are at a higher level. So through the instructional tools that we have learned in our partnership with LLC, we are in science identifying, again, through the right to learn strategies, the instructional or the literacy components so that our students are well prepared to take those tests. And also, they are also, just this week, science and math collaborated in professional development in order to support science supporting and understanding those 5 easy steps processes.
Great. Thank you.
It would be, I'm cognizant that we are at the order of the day, and so if you have additional questions, we can then, you would move approval?
Second.
I have a
Is there a
question.
second? Okay.
I can wait.
Okay, why don't we wait then? We will now just pause. Thank you very much. You might, if you
Thank
would
you.
remain, because there may be additional questions.
Sure, absolutely.
We're going to now begin our order of the day, which is our public comment time. And I see Ms. Emerson coming up. Okay. I'll read our statement. Public comment is the part of the board agenda where the public has the opportunity to address this Board of Education regarding issues they wish to comment on or bring to the board's attention. All speakers are asked to sign in on the sign-in log, and I actually have it here to show you what it looks like, and that was available by the door, and to complete the sign-in form, including as much detail as possible, and provide a written copy of your presentation if you have one available. The sign-in log and the sign-in sheet are at the table near the entrance door, and anyone who has not called in advance may sign up now. Please be sure to turn in the sign-in form to either the staff person handling the sign-in, which is Miss Chris Emerson in the bright sherbet, orange sherbet dress there, or Miss Polsfus up here. And please do so before you leave this evening. Public comment is an opportunity for the board to listen. It will not be a time to engage in dialogue, board members. Okay. As a general rule, the board will not comment on or respond to any comments made by speakers. Speakers are advised, for their own legal protection and the legal rights of staff, that any complaint or issue related to personnel must be made in writing, and your public comments should not include names, titles, or location names for any staff. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak, and speakers may not roll their time to another speaker. Each presentation will be timed. There is a black box on the ledge next to the microphone by the lectern that you'll be using that will show your timing. The light will turn green when you start, an amber light and a chime will occur when you have 1 minute remaining. Several chimes will sound, and the light will change to red when your time is up. When the light turns red, speakers are asked to complete their statement and allow others their turn to speak. Generally, speakers will be called in the order of the names received. However, if the sign-in log indicates that there are a number of speakers on the same subject, they will be grouped around that subject and called in the order they sign in. Once that subject area has been covered, other speakers will then be called in the order they signed in. We ask that you begin by stating your name only. No additional information, such as your address, is necessary. So with the information before me now, we will begin and invite Zora Krislock to speak with us this evening. Welcome. Yes, please. And it looks like you're going to need to pull the mic down closer to you. Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay.
And wait until, there you go.
Yeah, I do have copies for each one of you.
Okay, and
so
we'll have you give them to Miss Emerson as you checked.
Sure.
Okay.
I am here for a number of reasons. The first is because I pay taxes in Ramsey County. Also, I'm a person who believes all children have a right to a good education. And finally, I'm a retired employee of the St. Paul Public Schools. I can tell you that I am disgusted with the way money is squandered in St. Paul Public Schools' federal programs in their Title I. Money that had been designated for the homeless program for the 2010 to 2011 school year was in part inappropriately spent for purposes not intended in the Title I budget. From January through June 14th, 2011, a member of the homeless team, earning over $30 an hour, I might add, was directed to leave the homeless program and perform meaningless tasks. Consequently, the homeless program was reduced by one person, and thus, children and families had to wait longer for services or simply did not receive services. The tasks included cleaning out a storage room, watching the assistant in the Title I program clean out the files and then label the files for her. Consisted also of counting brochures and putting them in boxes, making a poster, counting and cataloging books, and answering phones. The homeless team was one person short, and so could not serve families as quickly and in such depth as it had before. This is an accountability matter. I wonder how the people who are involved in these federal programs and homeless programs help the financial bottom line of the St. Paul Public School District by wasting money and delaying services to parents and their children. Finally, this may be an indication of other problems in federal programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much for bringing that information to our attention. Our next speaker this evening is Mr. Bob Zick. Good evening, Mr. Zick.
Good evening, Board, Superintendent, staff. Bob Zick. Because of the time constraints you've put on this, people can see and hear the full discussion Monday night on St. Paul Neighborhood Network, Channel 15, 7 to 8 p.m. Last board meeting. Your public comment is time certain. When you move it around a half hour, it's not time certain. I came here, I was turned away. I was told that public comment was over. I left only to find out that there was other people that were told wrong and came here and then were allowed to speak after I left. Shame on you. I put in a request for public data. The request concerning the cost of moving planners to 1930 Como and the cost of office beautification in this building. About $200 million or $2 million for the moving of the planners, about $1 million for cost beautification. I asked for exact numbers, was told, go to the legal department. What does that cost? About $300 an hour to get some information that's public? That's despicable. First, we practiced age discrimination of teachers around here, the ones that we forced out. And now we're practicing class discrimination. And by class discrimination, I'm talking about what's going on with the building custodian engineers and the taking of their computer information and using it to force them out the door. And you know, this is happening to some of our best engineers in this district. And it's being done under the guise of inappropriate material on their computer, which they were never given training for, were never told any restrictions. Now, I bring that up in light of the fact that in so many other departments that I'm personally aware of, that this offense has gone on unpunished. And when I came to this board and said there's hundreds of thousands of dollars that are being stolen from this district, and had asked for a meeting with the superintendent to lay this out, that was just idle words, I guess, to you people. Unbelievable. Well, you know, these same people are now spending hours cleaning off their hard drives and erasing emails and stuff so they don't suffer the consequences that you bestowed upon our custodian engineers. I think we have a standard here that needs to be addressed, and I think somebody really needs to take a look at it. And you know, I always thought the superintendent was in charge here, but now I'm coming to realize that the chief operating engineer, Michael Ballman, is the one that really runs this place.
Thank you very much for your
So I think this board
comments.
needs to get a handle on it, and I would take the opportunity to talk to every board member and fully explain what's happening around here. Thank you,
Very
board.
much. Thank you. Ms. Emerson, is that the final sheet? There are no other individuals requesting time to come present and speak to the board this evening. This will now close our time for public comment at tonight's meeting. Thank you very much. We'll now then return to the discussion that was in process regarding one of the items on our consent agenda. And Director Broderick, you were about ready to ask a question. This
Yes.
again is in relationship to our contract with LLC.
Absolutely right. One of the main, a major part of the expenditure with LLC deals with providing guidance and research and attendance for the St. Paul Public School Common Core State Standards implementation team, as well as leaders and teachers throughout the district via a St. Paul Common Core Summit that you mentioned earlier. That's going to be held on December 7th and 8th. Since that's such a major part of the total expenditure, could you just give us a little bit more specifics in terms of what LLC is going to deliver in this area?
Okay, please respond. I'll look at the superintendent first.
Ms. Harris?
Right. Madam Chair, Directors of the Board, Director Broderick, that LLC conference is done in partnership with our Common Core work here in the district. As you recall, we have Common Core work going on in partnership with SPFT, our St. Paul Teachers Federation, with MDE, and with ourselves and SPPS. So this is an opportunity to highlight our work. It allows us to attend the conference. It allows us to work together to showcase all of the standards and the ELA work that we've done to unpack and look at where our Common Core standards are aligned with our curriculum.
Ms. Harris, is the cost of the conference part of this request? Because Mr. Broderick asked
Yeah, I
if
think
this
that's
is
my-
a major cost, and I understand it's not. But then, could you specify that?
I'll ask Mr. Andrastik to talk about the breakdown of how many people can attend that conference and how it is set up.
Okay, Mr. Andruska.
Madam Chair, Directors of the Board, and Superintendent Silva. The cost includes the attendance of 185 St. Paul Public School staff. It also includes the Leadership and Learning Center management and direction of the actual summit. So we are not, they're taking care of all the PR and all the setup and the international and nationally renowned speakers who will be there to not only share with us the core work of the Common Core that's has been implemented around the country, but also to highlight our work here in St. Paul. So those costs include the attendance of St. Paul staff and then the actual direction or the design of the conference itself and setting up a place for that to occur and all the amenities that come along with that.
See, I guess I'm a little confused because I assume that the cost of getting our personnel to the summit is our cost, correct? I mean, if we have X number of staff members that are excused from or not going to be on their job place, then that part of the cost of the summit is what they're being paid for those 2 days that they're at this summit. My question is this a joint sharing of the cost of this entire summit between the St. Paul Public Schools and LLC? And so back to my original question, what is LLC delivering or contributing, I guess, that's a better word, thank you, Director Carroll, contributing to this summit. The summit in itself sounds like a wonderful idea. I guess I'm just, and I know these things are expensive. My question is, how much is it costing us, and what are they contributing?
Madam Chair, Directors of the Board, Director Broderick, yes, it is a shared cost. Yes, we are contributing, and LLC is contributing. And yes, we would pay then for our folks to be released from school to attend the conference. The contribution from LLC, the cost includes the keynote speakers, renting the facility. We want to have this summit in St. Paul. We do not want the summit in Minneapolis, in Shoreview, in White Bear Lake. We want to focus on our great work in St. Paul, our pilot of the Common Core work. So that's why we're specifying that it's held here in St. Paul with the researchers and the facilitators coming to us here in St. Paul and highlighting our work.
So then LLC, and excuse me, Madam Chair, but LLC then in a sense is putting on the summit.
Correct. With us, in a joint venture, St.
But
Paul
I mean,
Schools.
the amount of money that was indicated that we're paying to LLC to cover this part of their contract is a considerable amount is considerable expenditure. And so what you're saying is that for that, what we're getting is this national type summit with great keynote speakers. They're going to take care of the rental of the facility?
Yes.
Yes,
So-
that's my understanding, Director Broderick, and I'd be happy to provide the breakdown for
Okay.
the board of all, exactly what costs are entailed in the $110,000.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Superintendent, do you have an additional response, or, because I know there is another board member, Director Carroll?
That's okay.
I'm going to remember in a minute. Oh, thank
Okay.
you. Thank you. This is in support of this item, but in addition, we so lightly banter about Common Core standards. And certainly there have been multiple presentations, but since the world does not routinely pay attention to this, I'm hoping, as one of my favorite topics that I haven't harped on staff for a while about, which is web-based information, I'm hoping that over the next 3 to 6 months, see, I'm getting much better at this versus next Tuesday, right? That we can start putting more out on the web about our Common Core, about the whole national movement on Common Core standards, what we're doing specifically, tie this LLC jointly sponsored summit into this, and just continue to celebrate and inform so that when people say, what? I can say, you know what, here's the web link. And that tells you all about it. So just over time, I think we sometimes forget that nobody else knows what we're talking about because we become so comfortable with it. So just a request over time. Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Superintendent?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Carroll, I'm going to talk about the fact when Ms. Kelly did the presentation on the preparation for the beginning of the year. We are one of the 5 school districts in the nation that is implementing Common Core. And we were selected because of our uniqueness and because of the kind of work that we do here. That grant, if we call it, it was sponsored by the Gates Foundation through the Council of Great City Schools. As Ms. Kelly said, Michael Cassidy sent an email, I believe it was yesterday or today, kind of run together, saying that the Gates Foundation had provided an additional amount of dollars to join more school districts into this and having us to be leading the work. So then when I look at common standards, Common Core, common standards is definitely the way that we're going across the nation. In Minnesota, as you know, we're okay, if we wanted to call it, with the math, but with the language arts, but we're still questioning the level of rigor, if you wanted to call it, in the math. But the reason that we have been working very much with the State Department as well as with the teacher union is being the leading on something so essential as what is going to look in the future. It's a privilege for the district. Not to say that because it's a privilege, and I'm going to go to Director Broderick about the conference. I do know that this seems like a lot of money, and I would like to get also myself the different levels of how the money is going to be spent. But when you look at the amount that we're spending, the amount of days, the amount of work, the amount of training, and when you talk about a national consultant, one of the things I've seen about Dr. Reeves, and it's not about Dr. Reeves, it's about the work. And he has provided not only the work when he comes here, we're constantly in phone calls, we're constantly working with people who he have here for working with St. Paul. And so far, even, and I see here that there's not even specified, we also have materials that we purchase with the textbooks that we provide to the teachers during the training. So I mean, it's several levels of support. The other piece that come along with the Common Core is the association of how the publishers across the nation are literally following what it's going to look like, because they need to be the first ones to kind of implement it and put it out. So then we have been, at least personally, I have been tagged by many publishers for us to be working with them, and we have kept ourselves away from the vendors and trying to continue the work with Dr. Reeves because and the Common Core, because the learning that we are getting out of it is very beneficial. We will give you more information in more detail because I also want it. And last year when we did the contract, I do believe I could have told you every line. Now I can't because the work gets in different levels. And we also need to establish the fact that we diminish 70% the cost of what we used the year before for working with LLC, and we hope to diminish the cost the next year, and because any reform doesn't happen in 2 years, and we knew that when we started with the ARA money, because this is how we started the work, that we needed to figure out how we were going to continue, and this is an expense for what we're getting that we feel very comfortable with. And we also are looking at our decision-making process that we did about deciding to do less but go deeper instead of continue doing a lot and going in the surface. And this is the work that we are going deeper.
Thank you. Director Hardy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a reminder, colleagues, that based on information that our legislative liaison shared with us in June prior to my CUBE conference, that Minnesota in general, the standards are a bit higher than at least the CCSS as it's currently stated. So as information is played or shared on the website per Director Carroll's request, I hope that we speak to that, that we have already been above what CCSS requires, and that was a big part of our discussion at the CUBE conference in June. Quite a few states feeling that the CCSS is really at a lower level than it needs to be in terms of academic rigor. So I just want to be sure that we don't
Right.
lose
In
sight
fact,
of
I think that was also acknowledged at the Council of Great City Schools as well during some of their work. We do have a motion before us. It's active. Is there any additional discussion on this motion? If not, the motion is to approve this item. We'll vote now.
Ms. Kongtao?
Yes.
Ms. O'Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Broderick?
Yes.
Ms. Street Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Risberg?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Thank you very much. That has been approved. The next item for discussion under separate consideration is C3, which is found on page 33 of your board book. This is related to a contract between St. Paul Public Schools and School Space Media. I know that there are a couple of board members who wanted to discuss certain matters of this item. So we could begin the discussion just as we did with the previous item, or if there is a motion that would set the tone of the nature of the discussion, you could do that now. But I think if you wanted to just begin by asking about the motion, that would be helpful. So Director Carroll and then Director Hardy.
I can't make a motion to approve this because that's not what I think we're going to end up doing.
Okay.
My issue with this is I cannot reconcile this approach with our policy 716. which is our advertising policy, which the way, it's a very simple policy, if I may, Madam Chair. It's got 2 sentences in it. No one shall employ by direct or indirect reference the name of the school district to endorse a commercial product or business enterprise, and advertising to support district or school publications is permissible, provided the subject matter meets criteria established by the superintendent. This is not a publication. That's about like advertising our school, back to school stuff and our placement stuff. And okay, that's what number 2. I do not see how doing this aligns with this policy. At the same time, I will say, we have addressed this policy multiple times in the past, never very well, because we couldn't figure out how to manage the Pandora's box that opens. I think supporting this effort, while I understand what it's for, and I think some, initial protocols have been put in place, it's still not. I don't see it. I don't see how we can support that given this policy. So my preference would be that we leave it pulled, and I know the implications of this. I am not. I understand that this is serious, but I would think this is a great opportunity to sort out how we want to deal with advertising properly.
Prior to making an action on this contract, okay.
Because we would do it in violation. Now, we can do that. We can say, we do this knowing we're taking exception, this is for some compelling special reason, we'll do it. I would not recommend that. Now, I also know staff may not interpret the policy the way I do, so I'm open to discussion on that.
Right, and as you said, you're not putting a motion before us to vote against this. Okay.
Well, I'm not doing, I'm actually suggesting we table it and put it to COB and tackle the advertising policy properly.
Okay, and you're making just a suggestion, so it's not yet before us as an action. I want to make sure Director Hardy has the opportunity also to speak, because otherwise then we'd be shifting the opportunity.
Absolutely.
So Director Hardy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually had requested this to be pulled as a separate item for consideration because this is a praise opportunity. We have requested as a board, and most recently Director O'Connell, that the district look at revenue sources. So my understanding is this is a great opportunity for revenue source and potentially for our traditional high schools in this particular case. And we can definitely look at the policy as Director Carroll's mentioning, but I did want to have someone, Madam Superintendent, speak to how this opportunity came to us and what's been done in other school districts as I was learning about that and how they've benefited and the type of advertising that actually gets played out through school-based media.
Okay, Superintendent Silva.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Hardy, and also Director Carroll. First of all, I would like to deal with the policy, and I will ask our council to refer to the comment, concern that Director Carroll has in relationship to our district policy.
Mr. Lala.
Madam Chair, I don't recall the specific wording of the policy. My recollection is, though, that this is not prohibited by the literal wording of it. Ms. Carroll, do you have the actual wording?
I believe a copy is coming to you.
716. Suzanne has, I just pulled, that's the great thing about having these computers.
Yeah.
I could pull up the policy.
Yes. Policy 716 has 2 numbered provisions. The first numbered provision is no one shall employ by direct or indirect reference the name of the school district to endorse a commercial product. Okay? This could, by its literal language, be easily construed to say that the school district is not endorsing any product that will be put on these advertising signs. And indeed, the advertisement itself will not indicate that the school district is endorsing the product. Of course, the second numbered one is not applicable. That deals with advertising to support a school district or school publications. Now, there's a state statute that authorizes this type of contract. And the statute also authorizes, for instance, the naming rights to an athletic stadium. The school district, it says, has quite broad authority. It says the school board may enter into contracts with advertisers. The only limitation is that the revenue generated by any such contract, according to the statute, quote, must be used according to a plan specified by the school board, close quote.
Dr. Carroll.
So let me be clear. When we, the last two rounds, in 2002 and 2008, when we failed to advance this
plan.
opportunity to do some advertising, I objected. I would like to figure out a way through this. But at that time, the board and administration were very clear that they did not want advertising in our schools. This is advertising in our schools. It is very explicit, and because it's our fields, it's our events, we're endorsing it. I think we should figure out a way to do it, but I don't think we should go around our existing policy to do it. I think we should fix the policy and dress it for the 8,000. Oh my God, guys, we've had so many things come to us, and we have rejected them all. There is no basis for picking this one just because it's now. I think we should fix this, get it right, provide a way to generate revenue that benefits our kids, and just get it organized and not just freelance our way through this.
Well, of course, the board should always apply its actions in compliance with its policies. It still is up to this board to determine if there's enough guidance that's before you with the policy as it exists in relationship to either approving or not approving this particular contract. So without a motion being before you, we'll continue to just have general discussion. And Director Hardy, I do appreciate then the opportunity for you to highlight this is to say this is an opportunity based on an earlier request from the board. So what we have now is this very interesting intersection. The board was requesting additional revenue. Now what we're saying is, are we able to comply with our policy? Do we have enough there to give absolute guidance, not only in this situation, but any future situation, once again, when we use the policy as the way to make our decisions? So it would be helpful, though, if there was a motion before us now, so that as board members continue to comment, it would be the opportunity to either be supportive of that motion or you're speaking against it. And I see Director Kong Tao has raised her hand, and then our two previous speakers have also indicated they'd like to speak.
For the purpose of this discussion, and I'm also looking at the recommendation that it is for a one school year with the option to renew, that I'm willing to move forward for discussion. So if I can get a second.
Second.
Okay. And that's to support then that we would enter into this agreement. Okay. Director Hardy and then Director Carroll.
Madam Chair, back to my request. Could I have someone speak to the request I made?
Yes, please, Superintendent.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I'm going to ask Ms. Quinlan, who I believe is quite prepared, because she's standing there with the information that you requested of how did we get to where we are and what is going to happen with the funds and how we distributing and all that.
Right, what other school districts have done
Yes,
this?
and what other school districts they have done.
Okay,
Madam
welcome,
Chair,
Ms.
members of the board, Superintendent Silva. In the spring of 2011, School Space Media actually approached Jerry Keenan, athletic director at Harding High School, with conversation around, and we have Athletic Director Keenan with us tonight, with conversation around the proposal that you see before you. Jerry Keenan then approached me as Supervisor of Athletics for the district to begin the discussion regarding the proposal to have school space media be used at 3 of our athletic arenas. How it became 3 was that they were not interested at that time to put advertising at all 7 of our traditional high schools, which included Washington High School. We came to a determination, and they asked us to gather some data, which was from our site athletic directors, to determine the amount of participation and admission rates that were gathered at each of the sites. What they then discussed was placing the advertising system at 3 of those with the highest participation rate. It was agreed with the 7 athletic directors that they would support that proposal as long as the revenue was returned to a district central location and distributed to all sites. The school districts that we checked on regarding things such as approval of advertising and or the support, because this is an opportunity that is of no cost to the St. Paul School District, including the labor for setup and takedown, was Mounds View and Burnsville, and received very satisfactory information. We then proceeded to work with the Office of Accountability and the Chief of Staff to channel the request through the proper channels.
So even as you have provided that information, as you were examining what the other schools, how they addressed the situation and they made opportunities at their schools, were you able to reflect also how they compared their actions with their existing policies on advertising? Because I think that would be helpful in getting the information for us.
Actually, I can probably speak to that, because we looked at this in the past.
Okay.
But, please.
Well, I'm just waiting.
Madam Chair, members of the board, our staff looked at where was it being used. Anytime that we are going to embed ourselves into a vendor or an activity, we check with other places that they're doing to see how it functions, because we don't want to go into a system that is going to be, at the end, creating a lot of issues with us. So we did check about how those, the procedure, the advertising, the setting up, work in those school districts. We did not go into the deeply policy level because we didn't believe it was going to be an issue, because as Ms. Quinlan said, we did check with our attorney to see if we were going in the right direction or not, because it's something that we've been talking about. But I do also believe that Mr. Hardy still had one more thing that didn't get answered.
Right. My understanding is that we know a bit about what kind of advertising was done at other schools. Can someone speak to that?
Thank you.
We did follow up on that request and learned that, number one, colleges and universities are often part of the advertisement. Bank systems. Help me out, Mr. Keenan, because we just got the information. Auto dealerships such as Mauer Chevrolet. Insurance companies. Realtors.
Also, medical, health industry.
Health industries and hospitals. And again, with St. Paul having the right to determine what can be advertised and not. I would like to address the policy question a bit, and then I'll refer this to the expert. But what we did was we compared it with policies that we presently have, such as the wellness policy, to make sure that we were not in violation of those board policies that were in place.
Okay, so there was some example. Mr. Mueller?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Silva. We did look at other districts and how they approached it, and that was where we found that at least one of the district had a pre-approval process to look at individual advertisers and how they compare to policies. We did specifically reach out to staff in the areas of counseling and student wellness and nutrition services as it related to possible advertisers that might be in conflict with other policies such as the wellness policy. That was primarily the one that we saw as being a concern as it relates to this contract. And again, given the advice of General Counsel, there is a section in the wellness policy that specifically addresses food marketing and what is allowed in terms of school-based marketing and what is not. So that was where we looked in terms of our own policies. We didn't identify other policies. We did look at the advertising in the schools, as you've discussed before. And I did not look specifically at other districts' policies because they weren't referred to in the contracts that we saw from those districts.
Okay.
Thank you.
So board members will continue our discussion. Director Carroll, and then Director Risberg.
All right, so I want to go back to the key point. The reason these other districts do it is because they don't have restrictive advertising policies. We have an exceptionally restrictive advertising policy, and that was put in place intentionally. I don't think we should have such a restrictive advertising policy. This has come up. You may remember some of our major partners, who shall remain unnamed, but with millions of dollars invested, have asked if they could have their name be used in certain situations in our schools. We have declined. We have cited this policy. We cannot do that with these major partners and then say this one's okay. We just can't. I think we need to fix this. I think you've already done a chunk of the homework. This is not rocket science to fix. I would also entertain, or I would not entertain, it's not for me to entertain. One of the things we could do is launch this policy revision process, get it done quickly, put the protocols in place, because that's where we got hung up last time. Well, how do you decide, and and let's be real and all that. But we've got a bunch more in place than we did several years ago when we declined to open this before. Because we've got more stuff around naming conventions. We have the wellness thing. We have some of these other pieces in place. I don't think this would be hard to do. At such time as we have at least ready for the first reading, which I think absolutely could be by our next board meeting, we could decide, as we have a new policy in place, to then approve this contract within that framework, because it wouldn't have been all finally approved, but it's going in that direction. The board could make that exception, but I just don't think we can't have said, we may not do what we have done for so many years to say no to all these other people.
Okay. Well,
and then just say yes to this.
Okay. Mr. Risberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I just had two related questions. Maybe you've already said this. Could you explain what the anticipated revenue is, and however, is that per game, per year, whatever? Just a broad ballpark estimate, and based on what other schools have that have used this have raised. And the second question is, if we did table this for now, what's the consequence of delaying in terms of implementing this?
Madam
Mr.
Chair
Keeney?
and directors of the board and Superintendent Silva, answer the first question, what revenues would you generate? In the contract, it calls for us getting 50% of the net profit.
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, we've looked into it, and legal challenged us right away and said, do you understand what 50% of the net profit is? It's not gross, which means the corporation that's marketing this program obviously is going to take their expenses out first. The net, then, we would share 50%. I've checked, I've sat with Moundsview and I sat with Burnsville. In the winter season, and I don't know if I'm at liberty to say, but I will say, they generated $15,000 at Moundsview for just their school with this program for the winter sports season. It's based on that net proceeds, the number of ads that this company can sell. And that's kind of why they chose they only are going to do 3 of our schools, because they pay for the equipment, this 30 by 3 foot electronic signboard. They pay for the workers, they do everything. We do nothing except guarantee them a place to store it. They sell the ads, they do all the work, and we receive 50% of the revenue. During the activity, we get to put any messages we wish. It's sort of like going to a Twins game or something else. We put our lineups, everything on it, and they only run so many commercials, ads, during the course of the event. And we have, if you look at the contract, we've worked with the contract with legal, we have to pre-approve every ad that goes on, that's on our screen. But the money will just depend on if the advertisers think we have enough attendance and if they go out and how many ads they sell. So there's no way we can tell you what the bottom line will be except a little bit of history. They've only been in business 1 season, and they've only been in business a couple of schools. They since have signed up 17 schools for this fall, besides us.
So what would be the implications if we table this and we go through the process of the 3 readings, which is usually 3 months, and then we would have to start, if it's changed, it would be December?
There is no consequence other than we would miss the opportunity for revenue during the fall sports season, which is football, soccer, volleyball, so on. And of course, that's a big attendance part of our year.
Does it include basketball?
It includes
all
the
that?
winter basketball, hockey, wrestling, any event. This board is very portable. It comes in 3 sections, and they hook it up.
The advertising board, not the seated
We're very portable. You got to be careful.
You can't divide us
You
by
gotta be,
3.
if you
We're
want to
not
see it,
divisible by 3.
I would tell you that if you want to see it locally, go to St. Thomas College. It's on the end of their gym.
Yep.
Only there they bought, and they mounted it permanently.
I see.
Ours, not an advertising board, it's a media board, but it's like you go to anybody's game, it not only scrolls this ad for Mauer Chevrolet, it goes across there. We're allowed, and our people will put on there the lineups for the game. You know, Joe Johnson ran 28 yards. We can put any graphics, any messages we wish during the course of the game. And so it supposedly makes the game experience more fun.
So as a follow-up, so you said, was it Mounds View that earned $15,000 of the net?
In the winter season.
In the winter season.
And of course, the company, like all companies, is telling us, as they get rolling, these bigger corporations will purchase the ads. I was asked, several people have asked in our administration, are they going to go to Joe's Barber Shop and sell an ad, or the meat market? And that? They're going to try to avoid the little local merchants and go for the, you know, like Mauer Chevrolet or United Health or bigger corporations.
Okay, so that 15,000, if we would earn that, the agreement that we have that you've discussed with the athletic directors, that would be just collected centrally and distributed to all 7 high schools.
We would divide it with 7 schools.
And it would go where? To the their athletic departments?
That's what we're hoping for. As was brought up earlier, we, in our revenue situation with budget cuts and everything else, each of our schools is hard pressed for the football helmets, the volleyballs, all of our equipment, uniforms, what have you. This would give us another source of revenue to supplement that funding.
So it would be an athletic purpose.
Right.
And the last question I have is, if we are allowed to pre-approve the advertising, do you have established criteria for that, or is it just, you know it when you see it, if it's appropriate
I would
or
think
not?
we would use a little bit of common sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, you could, you know, as mentioned earlier, we sent the wellness policy to the company, and we've sent them other criteria. You know, things, obviously liquor, tobacco, all those kind of things. They're very cooperative with making the contract. They said to us, draw the contract almost any way we'd like it. The part of the pre-approval for ads. They had a big paragraph. They've scratched the whole paragraph and said we can approve any ads prior to they go on the screen. So consequently, it's a no risk that we can detect. They purchase the equipment. They hire the workers to operate the equipment. During the game, they're going to have 2 students that'll run these boards. We can recommend the students. They're going to train them. They're going to pay them $12 an hour, each student at each of these 3 sites.
And I think that's probably helpful information, but not particularly necessary for our discussion tonight. But what I would like us to do is to move forward to be able to satisfy the concerns that have been raised about being consistent with our policies, as well as moving this opportunity forward. So during our discussion, I have approached council to say, is there a way to assist us in our parliamentary procedure to then continue what we need to do tonight and not prolong the discussion? So, Mr. Lala?
Madam Chair, it seems to me there's 2 ways to handle it. The motion could be laid on the table and taken off the table at the next meeting. In the interim, the committee of the board looks at the policy and determines whether or not the board, which can interpret its own policies, interprets it as prohibiting this or not. If it concludes it does not prohibit it, then the agreement could be approved next board meeting. If it concludes that the Current policy prohibits it. The first reading of the change policy, if adopted by the committee of the board, could be had at that meeting. The contract approved with the understanding, would be consensus, that the third reading would indeed be adopted. Another way to handle it tonight, to satisfy the concerns expressed by board members and administration in the desire to not miss any of the upcoming fall season, is to approve the contract this evening, subject to a condition subsequent of either A, board determination that the contract is not a violation of existing policy, or B, that the board amend its policy to permit the contract. If neither of those two conditions occurs, then the contract at that point of time would become null and void.
So you've heard several options before us. The motion that we have right now is to approve this agreement without any reflection or consideration of our policy. But you could make a motion to amend so that it actually could incorporate some of the suggestions that were just made. So, Director Carroll.
I think there may be a third route, which is a blend, which is to approve it with conditions. But I personally don't think there's a question about whether it violates a policy. I think the question is how quickly we can put together a new policy, and given the work that's already been done and the historical work that's been done around this, I do not think this is a big deal.
So what you would recommend is that we approve it or amend it to approve subject to the revision of policy revision.
And I would be more specific, and this is, again, I seek parliamentary ruling on this one. I believe, in all cases, I believe the board has the option to make exception. And so I do believe that we can have a first reading at our September meeting and do the approval pending the completion of the proposed policy, rather than the approval after the third reading. So I'm trying to have this go into play as, joke intended, yes, for the fall season, in fact, but it forces us to get our act together on rewriting the new policy rather than waiting till September, October, November.
Okay, so then as always, what we're going to need is the language of the amended policy so that that could come before us.
Should there be interest in pursuing that, I will be happy to sit here and try to write something intelligible.
No, Madam Chair, I would just comment that Ms. Carroll's idea is essentially what I said.
Yeah.
She's suggesting that a motion to lay on the table be made, which is a non-debatable motion, and that between now and the September board meeting, administration working with the committee of the board work to revise